Today, we're going to be talking about our sales process that we've used to generate more than $20 million in sales between Ben's practice, ProKinetics, and our coaching company, Clinical Marketer. People don't like to be sold, but they love to buy. Right now, all of you are here because you're generating leads, but you're not converting enough of the right people to reach your financial goals. Your clinical skills are incredible. You're world class. You're confident in your ability to get great outcomes. You can change lives, but somewhere between thanks for calling and here's what I recommend, you're losing people and it's costing you everything. And it's causing you to second guess whether or not this is actually going to work out for you. And so right now, your discovery calls end in, let me think about it, and I'll get back to you. Then they ghost, and dang, you're never going to hear from them again. Your evaluations where your patients are getting a lot of value and they appreciated it and it feels like it went really good, but they're still not committing. Your price conversations feel awkward, rushed, or apologetic. Objections you don't have answers for. A pit in your stomach every single time you talk about your prices, so you're afraid to increase them. A conversion rate you're either not tracking or not proud of, or you're not tracking it because you know you're not proud of it. A growing suspicion that the only thing standing between you and hitting 10, 20, 30K a month inside of your practice is this, your ability to convince people that you are worth the price that you're talking to them about. So what we're going to do is break down our entire sales system. This is going to be the first of 3 different videos that we're going to do every Thursday as we re-record the Limitless DPT curriculum. And what we're going to help you do is get to a place where patients show up pre-sold, ready to invest, so it doesn't depend all on your salesmanship. Premium, able to charge premium prices where people pay upfront in full without flinching. Be able to have full plans of care that people are committed to, not just one-off visits. People will say, finally, I found you. Sales conversations that feel like service, like a clinical conversation rather than a performance where you're taking off your clinician hat and putting on your sales hat, and where your calls end with people hanging up thinking that was fun instead of thank God that's over. Okay, that's where we want to get you to. So inside of this workbook, we're going to do 3 things. We're going to change how you see sales permanently, because sales isn't what most cash DPTs think that it actually is. And until you shift this, you're going to resist sales rather than realizing that this is one of the most valuable skill sets you'll ever have in your life, and it's a lot of fun. I'm going to show you how to get patients to convince themselves to invest in you, so you're not sitting there defending yourself and explaining to them why you don't take insurance. And I'm going to hand you the exact scripts to have every conversation that matters inside of your practice. Quick disclaimer for all of you, Ben and I are not natural born salespeople. Okay, this is something that we had to work at. This is something that we did not invent, but this is the byproduct of, Ben, how much would you say combined you and I have invested in coaching over the last 6 years?
At least $500,000.
At least $500,000. We've invested a ton in coaching. So we're taking all of the best principles that we have learned from other coaches. We've applied it to our own businesses. And now we're handing you the final product of that. All of the hard lessons, all of the rejection, everything, so that hopefully you can avoid a lot of the stuff that we have messed up in our businesses. Now, if you want to connect with us and get weekly, daily content on how to grow your cash practice, you can check us out. You can go to our website, go to our YouTube page. You can follow Ben and I on Instagram. My account's brand new. It recently I had to start a fresh one, which is unfortunate. But you can also go to Spotify, where every week we're releasing all the content that we're recording for our mastermind. So our best stuff all in there. Go check it out. And if you want a more centralized hub where you have a community of other cash physical therapists who are trying to get to 10, 20, 30, 100K months inside of their practice, go join the Limitless DPT Circle community, where we have all of our best training for starting and growing your practice available for you. A lot of it is free. So go check that out. Ben, you want to take this one?
Yeah. So when it comes to it, is you need to stop asking the wrong question. How do I sell? You need to start understanding, like, why do people buy in the first place? Okay. Because you're also like wondering, I don't want to make it feel like it's pushy. And it feels pushy because that's exactly what it is, because you're not taking through the right journey and the right process. So when you understand why people buy, You stop convincing, you can start connecting. And when you start connecting, now you don't have that awkwardness disappears. The pushiness disappears. And it feels a lot better on your end of things too. I hear a lot of people like, I get on the calls, I just don't know what to say. Well, that's the problem, is because you're doing most of the talking. When you're doing most of the talking, it feels more pushy. You need to help guide them by asking the right questions. So authentic sales is really just effective leadership.
So the key to all this, the big idea is we have to transition from asking yourself, like, how do I sell? And think about why do people buy? Because when you understand that, it becomes really easy to get people to say yes to you for their own reasons. And so we have to transition because leaders, they're not convincing. They're asking strategic questions that persuade the person to move forward for their own reasons, not for your reasons. And in order to do that, we have to stop trying to be interesting, saying things like, here's what we do, here's my credentials, here's how many people I've helped, here's how smart I am. We have to go and transition into being extremely interested in the person that we're trying to help. What inspired you to call? What have you tried already? What are your goals? What happens if you keep going about this the same way that you have been? Okay, when we get into that stuff, and when we're asking these questions, again, people convince themselves. The irony is many cash GPTs, they resist learning sales because they're not salespeople. But what they end up doing is reinforcing the very behavior that causes them to hate sales. They're defending their rates with their experience, with their credentials, with how good of clinicians they have, with how many people they've actually helped. But when you're talking about yourself, that is exactly what you hate about it. You are trying to convince them that you are worth something. But when we stop trying to explain how good we are and we get really curious and interested in the prospect we're talking to by asking questions, them stating the answer to those questions is them convincing themselves. Whoever is doing the most talking is doing the convincing. And you're either talking too much and convincing them why they shouldn't buy, because every single thing you say is something that your prospect can object to, or you're asking questions, they're doing all the talking, and they're convincing you why they should move forward. And so we have to flip that. We have to stop trying to convince, and we have to start persuading by asking strategic questions. So no one cares about you, your process, what you've done, how many people you've helped. Your prospect only cares about themselves. And so we have to get really good at asking questions. And this should be a relief for many of you that you don't have to do a lot of talking. If you're great at sales, you're doing maybe 10 to 15% of the talking. The rest of it is asking questions and getting them to tell you everything that they need to know. Anything that can be told can be asked. One of my mentors told me, and it was one of the most valuable pieces of information that a coach has ever given me, because it's the essence of leadership. If you just tell people what to do, you're more of a manager. But if you can ask somebody a question that leads them to their own answer for their own reasons, that becomes a shift in their mind that they've vocalized the true problem, and it's harder for them to not continue to move forward. So whatever can be asked can be given, or whatever can be asked, or whatever can be told can be asked. You want to do number 2?
Yeah. And the thing too is you have to realize that sales isn't a you versus them. It's not like you win, they lose, or they win, you lose. You just can't do it that way. And so you need to start viewing the opponent as like the problem, their problems. Mm-hmm. What is the problem that they're having, and how can you help them solve it, is what it comes down to.
Exactly. You're on a team, you're supportive. It's you against all the problems that they have in their life. And a lot of PPTs are approaching their calls like, I have to get this person to close. If they don't move forward, I lose. And they can feel that energy on the calls. They have to know, see, and hear that you are on the same team. And so this is the oath that you took when you decided that you were going to be a doctor of physical therapy. Always act on my patient's best interest. I will keep their health information a secret, use my skills and knowledge to help them heal, protect them from harm, and never prescribe something they don't need. Your oath in sales is almost the exact same thing. I intend every prospect to win, whether they work with me or not. If they're not a good fit, I'll refer them elsewhere, give them some sort of information to help them move forward. You'll create a safe space for them to be honest about their problem. You'll ask questions instead of pushing solutions. If they have a problem I can solve, I have a duty and a responsibility to sell them on that solution. And that means asking strategic questions and guiding them to the right answer. That's the essence of leadership.
Yeah.
And so
And it's not just your ethical obligation to sell them, it's also your ethical obligation to learn how to do it. And that's the thing too, is so many people resist sales. And by doing that and not being able to not being willing to dive into that and learn it because you're putting up a front, like this is either I'm too good for this or I don't need to do this, I'll hide behind my credentials. You're going against the clinician's oath because now you're doing something that's in your best interest, not something that's in the best interest of the patient.
Right. An extreme example is if you created the cure to cancer, but you don't know how to convince anybody or persuade anybody to try to use it, what good is it? It's not very good. It's not going to impact anybody, even though you have something that's absolutely incredible. So it is your obligation to learn how to persuade people to do the things that are necessary to get them where they're trying to go.
Yeah, the story to help this land too, from a more of a physical therapy standpoint of things. There was a PT that I hired, and it was one of his first months, and he kind of resisted the sales aspect of things. And he was a really great clinician, had tons of credentials, one of the best PTs I've ever hired from a clinical standpoint. And he was resisting sales, and there was a patient that came in with low back pain, and he didn't do a great job at the eval with regards to the sales process. And the patient booked, but then he called back and canceled because he said that he was going to go talk with his surgeon first. He ends up getting surgery. And guess what? That surgery, there's complications. He was fine. He survived it, but there's significant complications that happened during that surgery that is going to impact him for the rest of his life. And at the end of the day, that could have been avoided. Because I had talked to the PT and like, hey, did this person need surgery? He's absolutely not. Like, he did not need surgery. Okay, that we had said in a better way, but helped him arrive at the conclusion that this was partly his fault because he didn't embrace how to convince the person that he could help and and create a roadmap for him to be able to get the results. And because he didn't, a surgeon did in a much better way, even though that was the wrong answer. The surgeon was more convincing, had a better sales process, and at the end of the day, the patient suffered because we didn't do the sales in the way that we needed to, and somebody else did, that even though the answer was wrong on the surgeon side of things. So there's real implications here when it comes to embracing this and results for patients.
Right. 100%. And if you are avoiding challenging someone's limiting beliefs, preventing them from moving forward, you're not sparing them discomfort. You're sparing yourself the discomfort, because what you're giving them is the life where they have to keep the problem that they have because you were too afraid to say what needed to be said, say the tough truth that they need to hear. And that's what people are craving today. Everyone tells everyone what it is that they want to hear. People need leadership today more than ever. People who, with love and good intentions, telling them the reality and the truth that they need to hear to fix what it is they're trying to do. So real quick, my name's Jordan Mather. Partner in crime, Dr. Ben Bagge. We've been doing this for 6 years now. We've built two multi-seven-figure businesses combined. We've generated more than $20 million in sales building with the sales system that we're going to be teaching you. ProKinetics, one of, if not the most profitable and lucrative cash physical therapy practices in the entire country. If you know anyone doing $1 million in profit a year that can dethrone Ben and debunk that statement, please share it with us. We haven't found anybody yet, but teaching the systems, the marketing systems, the operating systems, the sales systems to other practice owners. We've helped hundreds of cash practice owners scale to multiple 6 and 7 figures. These are just a handful of the clients that we've been able to award our 7-figure impact award by scaling to 7 figures using the systems that we've done. Now, we're not saying that to show off. We want to show it to you because even though everything we teach isn't perfect and there's a million ways to do everything, what it is that we teach really can transform your lives because it's happened for hundreds of others. But the path to us getting here and being able to create those results, it sure as hell wasn't smooth. Ben and I were not good at sales in the beginning. Ben, what was sales like for you at first?
Oh, it was painful.
So painful.
Especially because I'm more of a natural introvert as well. And so doing calls and doing sales in the wrong way takes it even more out of me than probably the average person. And so it was not a fun experience for me. And then I started really embracing it. I had started having fun with it because I learned how to do it in a good way. And I think it's one of the most impactful things that you can learn to make an impact on people's lives is sales.
100%.
I actually feel like I can help more people. I feel like I can help more people, not just in physical therapy and patients, but like in life, just being able to guide people in what's best for them. Like, I feel like you make more of an impact as learning proficient sales than I ever could from a clinical standpoint.
I've been able to use these skills to not only help like my friends through difficult times and help get them to the conclusion they needed to get to. It's helped me in my relationships. It's helped me figure out where my fiance wants to go for dinner. It is helpful in every aspect of your life, being able to effectively communicate with people and understanding how to persuade and understanding how people think. It helps in every element of your life, but it takes a while to get there. It takes a lot of reps. When I started, I'm more extroverted. And so the problem that I faced was I was terrible at sales. I was really uncomfortable with sales. And so I over communicated and I tried to use my friendliness to get people to buy. But people don't buy from friends. Otherwise, all of our friends that started multi-level marketing businesses would be insanely successful because all of their friends would have bought from them, but we don't. Okay. And so we have to learn how to do this. So at first, we're terrified to charge what we really wanted to charge. So we belittled not belittled, but we devalued our services to what we thought people would be able to pay. We let people say, I'll think about it, and then hoped that they would call back and never challenge them on what is it you need to think about and figure out like what is their actual objection, what is their actual concern so we can solve it. And as we're doing all of this, and as we were sparing people the sales process, we ourselves were barely getting by in our own lives. And so if those problems sound familiar and you're going through the same thing, just know that before Ben and I built these businesses and developed the sales skills that we have today, we were exactly where you are. And so if you're trying to build something meaningful and become an effective communicator where your value becomes undeniable in the eyes of your patients and they move forward because they decided and closed themselves on moving forward, you're absolutely in the right place. This workbook is going to break down every single element of our entire sales process, from how we think about sales to what sales is, to our discovery calls, to our evaluations, the entire process you need to start getting more self-closing patients through your doors and paying in full upfront. So first things first, before we can share the scripts and everything with you, you have to understand exactly how to engineer the yes. Why do people buy? Ben, you want to lead this one?
Yeah. So first thing is you need to get curious about the problem. Like, what are they actually having a problem with? And then if they have an objection, like learning about that objection, diving deep into it. And they really have that thing too, I should backtrack, that every person that you meet has invisible armor of 7 different objections. And to influence anyone to do anything, you have to remove that armor first. So you have to learn how to take that shield down. So when they get an objection, should also pre-frame that step 0 is actually trying to prevent objections from happening in the first place. That is also a really great place to start. But if you do get an objection, get curious about the objection.
Yeah, best way to overcome objections is to prevent them from happening. Yep. And when we understand the 7 reasons why people buy and 7 reasons why people don't, we can make sure we uncover every single objection before we actually make the pitch, so that when we do, it's an immediate, instant yes, because we already covered all of our bases. We already discussed all the things before we created sales pressure. Ben hit it. Everyone's wearing this armor. The key is through strategically asking questions, we get them to pass their goals, their fears, their frustrations, their desires, all those things over to us. Because once people have communicated all of the parts of their story, all of the parts of their problems and their goals, only then do they believe that we can actually help them. A lot of you sabotage your sales because another person calls in with shoulder pain. You say, oh yeah, we can definitely help with that. And in your head, you know their story. You've heard it probably 100 times, but in your prospect's mind, they don't know that. And until they have verbally communicated every aspect of their situation, they don't actually believe or trust that you can help them. And so we have to go through the steps, even though we've probably heard this story a million times. And so get them to tell you everything about their problem. People trust people that they unburden themselves to. And so when you are genuinely curious and empathetic about their situation, where you get them talking about all this stuff and feeling safe, The safer they feel, the more that shield comes down and the more they pass that shield over to you. Because when you get them to communicate those 7 core beliefs, that is all armor now protecting you and your sale. Because now you have all of the information you need to have a compelling argument as to reasons why they should move forward. And when you repeat this process for all 7 beliefs, that's when you create self-closing leads. Because when you make the pitch, you've already covered all the bases and you've proven that you care more about them than anyone else did because nobody took the time to actually ask all those questions. And so to do this, you don't need to be charismatic to enroll patients. Ben is a self-proclaimed introvert. You don't need to be super charismatic. You don't need a certain personality type, a specific degree, a certain number of years of experience. You just need to know the 7 reasons why people buy so that you can structure your discovery calls and your sales processes around those things to shift those beliefs in your favor so that moving forward becomes a no-brainer. Okay, so we call this the belief bridge. The 7 beliefs, we have to get them in order to cross them over from point A, their hell island, their undesired situation, to point B, heaven island, where we're able to help them get the outcome that they're looking for and reach the goals that they have. And take this?
Yeah. And so the pain belief is what inspired, you need to figure out like why are you even reaching out? And that's the thing too, if you get hit with right out of the gate, do you take insurance? If you just answer that, no, but first of all, you're not going to convert anybody. It's like, there's no value. You're just like every other PT out there. And so you really need to figure out taken through all these different steps of what's actually bothering them. So what inspired you to reach out? How long has this been going on? What does a typical day look like with this problem? What have you had to give up because of it? Like figuring out how this actually impact them from pain standpoint.
So all of it's common sense. In order for someone to move forward, they have to have a problem that they're looking to solve. They have to have a desire that they know that once this problem is solved, I'll be able to do this. They have to trust that your process will be able to get them there. They have to have doubt that they can get there on their own. They have to have the support from the people in their life to actually solve this problem. They have to believe that the cost of doing nothing is the cost of working with you is only exceeded by their cost of doing nothing. And when all of these beliefs are in place, which you can go through this, we aren't going to soak up time and go through every single one of these questions. We'll share this workbook with all of you beneath this training. But these are all the questions that you just need to ask. And as long as you ask these questions, and not even all of them, you just sometimes have to ask 1 or 2 of them, depending on the person that you're talking to, because sales is nonlinear. Every single person is going to be a little bit different. You don't have to ask every single question. You just have to ask the question, continue asking the questions until you get the response that you're looking for, the outcome, the sales outcome you're looking for, that proves that belief has now been shifted. So it's really simple once you understand what these things are. And it's not about like the questions anymore. It's like you can make up your own questions on the fly based on the conversation because you know what the sales outcome you're looking for. So each and every one of these is a sales outcome. So before someone's willing to invest, we need to hit 7 sales outcomes and instill all of these beliefs. So these beliefs aren't shifted all at once. This happens from the first touch point with your brand, whether it's an ad, whether it's your website, then it goes to your discovery call, then it goes to your onboarding process, then it goes to your evaluation. And if we can cover all of those before we get to the pitch, you're going to have people who have already convinced themselves that they're ready to move forward, and your value is definitely worth the price.
Yeah, I want to give an example too. If you can scroll up here, the money belief. So if you get hit with costs and objections at the end, that means you didn't overcome that objection throughout. So for that money belief, there's questions in there. What have you already spent trying to fix this? Now you're asking them to reflect on just how much money they actually spent. So when you start getting to the end, they're in the back of their mind, they've already reasoned through this. I've already spent this amount of money on it. I need to get this. I need to do something about this. What's it costing you now, right now? Not just money, but in time, energy, and quality of life. Now they start really realizing how much this has impacted them. And when you can get somebody to verbalize it, when you get to the investment piece of things, that value is already there. You don't get hit with cost and insurance objections. So you guys might have been wondering like early on, like how do you prevent objections? It's by asking these questions. So they are subconsciously and also consciously reasoning to say yes when you get to that. They've already done that. They don't need to think about it because throughout the phone call, they've been verbalizing exactly what they need to do, and they've convinced themselves that they should do it because you've asked them questions.
These are called consequence questions. They're one of the most powerful things that you could do. And before you go to try to book your prospect or try to pitch them on a plan of care, you should always be asking, okay, once we understand like what the problem is, okay, just out of curiosity, if we don't do anything about this, where does that leave you in the next 6 to 12 months? And then they're forced to verbalize the reality of inaction, which of course drives them. It makes it harder for them to say no because they just told you what's the negative thing is going to happen if they do nothing. Another really common one is this trust belief. When a prospect tells you, oh, they're not able to work out like they used to, they're not able to bench the weight that they used to be able to do, and it's really impacting them because the gym is where they got all their stress relief. That's where they built a lot of their confidence because they're able to move heavy weight, and that made them feel good every single day. And now they're unable to do that. And then as soon as a lot of PTs hear that, they're saying, great, I think our physical therapy process can definitely work for you, blah, 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 blah. Instead, what you should do before we get to that point, we tell them we're confident we can help, you should ask them, okay, why do you feel like we're a good fit for you? Why do you feel like physical therapy is the right thing for you? And now you get them explaining to you all the reasons why your process and your treatment style is the right fit for them. See the difference in that, where if you're telling them, yes, we can definitely help with that, here's what our process looks like, that is you convincing them of your process versus asking them, why do you feel like this process is going to work for you? Why do you feel like physical therapy is going to solve this problem? Now they're telling you all the reasons why they should move forward. And so again, whatever can be told can be asked. And a thought created is always better than a thought given. So don't tell people what they need. Ask them and have them explain to you what they think they need. And then use that information when you go to present what the next step is. Okay, when they tell you, here's all the things that I want, here's what matters to me in physical therapy, here's why I think it's going to work. Now you can say, you're really smart for saying that. Our process, and then match it up to everything that they just said. Again, this takes practice, but all sales is leadership. It's asking questions and letting your prospects convince themselves and explain to you why working with you is the right thing that they should be doing. Okay, so there's a lot of steps to this. We don't set and change all of these deep-rooted beliefs and get people across the 7 beliefs bridge in one conversation. It very rarely happens unless it's a really motivated person that has already done their research and already knows they want to work with you. Referrals is a good example of this. And so there's a couple different stages. The best enrollment journeys don't just attract dream customers. Your sales process and your marketing should create dream customers, okay? Because our dream customer is nothing more than an identity, and an identity is nothing more than beliefs. And so if we master the art of shifting beliefs through by asking strategic questions and with logic, we're able to get people to shift their beliefs and create the dream customer we want to have, making sales way easier. So the goal of your enrollment system is to transform or reinforce your prospect's identity by shifting their beliefs through strategic question asking. Okay, it's taken you months, likely years, to adopt the beliefs that cash pay services are the superior treatment model. And a lot of you are expecting your prospects to just have that same belief right out of the gate. When you had to work in an in-network clinic or in a hospital for years before you realized how much better cash pay physical therapy actually is. And we need to learn how to instill that same belief into our prospects without them having to go through the in-network hamster wheel and waste a ton of money and potentially get surgery. We have to be able to condense that context down to a very streamlined, repeatable, organized sales process. And then once you see it, it's really easy to do. We're going to cover the entire thing for you. So it leads in this series. Today, we're just going to cover discovery calls, but in this series, it's how you follow up with your leads. It's your discovery call process. It's what happens between the time you hang up and they actually show up, your onboarding process, how you structure your first visit to exceed expectations so that your value becomes abundantly clear that it's better than a copay or what they get at another clinic. And then, of course, your fulfillment process. What's the experience you're providing that constantly reinforces that your prospect made the right decision? And so this is the entire enrollment journey, because the sale is not done when a prospect says yes. The sale is done when they get the outcome that you promised them, when you take them from Hell Island and they finally arrive at Heaven Island. That is when the sale is done, not when cash is collected. And so we have to be very thoughtful about every single one of these experiences. Next week, Ben and I will be covering how to conduct the perfect evaluation, the exact process that Ben's using right now to convert nearly 90% of every single evaluation into what, $2,000 packages now, Ben?
Yeah, really 2,100.
2,100?
2,200.
Nice. Okay. So let's go into it. Not going to go to lead follow-up. We're going to skip right ahead to Discovery Call 101. Ben?
Yeah, so really need to cover the basics. So again, your job is to guide the prospect along the tracks and get them to book an evaluation. That's simply it. There is something we said that you do want to also make sure that you're setting yourself up for success with the evaluation as well. You do want to have a little bit of friction. You don't want to just schedule anybody and everybody. Effective sales is also not scheduling everybody and everybody. Okay. After we've done literally over 10,000 of these calls at this point, and the data is that 60% of discovery calls should book an eval at a minimum. Okay.
That's the benchmark.
Yep. And time on the call should be between 15 to 20 minutes. We find that we've analyzed the data. It's interesting that once you start going like 25 minutes or above or longer than that, the conversion rate actually decreases. And anything less than 10 minutes is also a very low conversion rate. The sweet spot is the 15 to 20 minutes. Okay. So the big thing is you need to make sure that you connect with people on the front, at the beginning of the call. So many people answer like they're having the worst day in the world. If you call us, like, you would think that every time that you talk to us, we're having the best day in the world. Like we just won the lottery. People also tell me all the time, like, yeah, just get people that are grumpy on the call or what. I'm like, okay, let me listen to your call. Yeah, you're bringing no energy. Like it'd be really difficult for somebody on the call to be like rude or disrespectful to us because we're so pleasant and so high energy. And that even the lowest energy people have a hard time being unpleasant. Like they have a hard time being their natural selves with being unpleasant because of how well we do with connecting with people at the beginning of the call and the energy that we answer the calls with. Okay, that's first and foremost. If you don't do that, you're not gonna get people to open up. I also get a lot of people tell me, yeah, I ask these questions and then they give me like one-word answers. Yeah, again, so much of this comes back to their energy and how did you pre-frame that call? The example of this is like when you are at the beginning of the call, to get them to really open up and explain the benefits of answering our questions, like, hey, before we get you scheduled, I want to make sure that we can absolutely help. And also on top of that, if we can, make sure we get you paired with the right specialist. So the more information I can get, the more I'm able to help you. So yeah, if you could tell me your story of like how long it's been going on for, what you've tried and what you want to get back to and just your story overall, more information, the better. So now I'm giving them incentive to like actually engage with us because everybody is selfish. They want to know what is in it for them. Like, why do I need to answer these questions? They don't understand. They think it's all benefit for you. By pre-framing at the beginning of the call, why you're asking these questions and how it actually benefits them, they're going to be much more likely to actually give you content and things to actually work with, substance for you to work with. Okay.
And it takes it from just a conversation, which could go anywhere where your prospect has all the control, to we have an organized process to help you get the outcome that you're trying to go. And then they let you lead the call. A lot of you just let your prospects lead the call, which puts you in defensive mode the entire call. And you're never going to close that person because people don't respect people that can't lead. And so you need to be able to tee up that conversation. I'm going to figure out where you've been, what you've tried, where you're trying to go, and see if we're the right fit for you. Is that okay? Transition into questions.
Yep. And if you can nail this first part, like people tell me all the time, I just don't know what to say. If you nail this first part, it is not uncommon for people to go on rants for 3 to 5 minutes and tell you all the answers that you have on your phone script, like how long it's been going on for, what have you tried? Like they go through their, like I tell them, like, tell me your story. That is one of the most powerful things that we can get. Like it makes the phone call so much easier. They're talking for 3 to 5 minutes. And then also on top of that, when you ask great questions and they're also giving you better answers because of how you started the call, you have more time to think about what next question comes next. When you get hammered with just one answer responses, you're on your heels. If you can get people to talk for 30 to 60 seconds for every answer or question that you're asking, it just flows so much better. You're not on your heels. You can actually think and process and actually listen to the person, and also think about what question makes most sense to ask next. This is probably the biggest issue that I see most people fail with calls. It's how they're beginning the call and the expectations they set. So anyways, enough about the connection. You need to start now engaging them. Figure out what their deeper why is. If you ask, how did you hear about us and why do you feel like we're the right fit for you? That's one of my favorite questions to ask. Yeah, I saw you on Google. Okay. So a lot of immature people that do these phone calls will just be like, take that. Awesome. I asked a question. Good enough. No, you need to be like, great. Awesome. Glad you found us on Google. Tons of our patients find us on Google. So I know you got a lot of great reviews. What stood out to you on reviews that made you want to reach out? Oh, I saw that you work with a lot of runners. Yeah, we work with tons of runners. Like, you're definitely in the right place. Curious, what was one specific review that stood out to you the most that was running related? Right now they're telling, like, oh yeah, it's somebody runner that was also having Achilles related pain. They were wanting to run a half marathon just like me. Do you see how, like, I'm actually trying to engage, not just like trying to just ask questions for the sake of asking questions. Right. I want to get emotional drives.
And they're building your case for you rather than you telling them all the reasons to move forward. You're taking what is already a really promising sign that they've already done their research, but forcing them to go deep into, oh, what was great about that? What stood out to you specifically? And that expands in their mind the reasons to move forward because you forced them to verbalize it. So really powerful.
Yep. And then once you've identified and engaged with them, now have not just one, identified the problem yourself. They've also really opened up and explained just how much pain, not just physical, but emotional pain they're in as well. And now you transition about how you can help. So now you present the process and you do your mini pitch here and explain how physical therapy actually works with you and the process, so they can envision themselves if this is something that's going to work for them as well. And then from there, it's booking the evaluation, confirm the details, set expectations of what happens next.
And the transition is so important because the difference between creating a bunch of sales pressure and them asking you to sell them. And so once you collect all the information you need, where you feel like you've covered the core beliefs that you need to make sure that they are ready to move forward and that they're a good fit, you got to transition and ask permission. Would it be helpful if I explain to you how our approach works and how we're going to get you to X, Y, and Z again? They say, yes, please sell me. And now there's no sales pressure because they asked you to do it and gave you permission. Okay, so these are the 5 stages of your discovery call. It is crucial that you go through all of them, because if you reach the closing stage where you're trying to book them, but you've missed one of these areas and they're like hesitant to move forward, it's because you didn't go deep enough into one of these areas. And so if your people aren't converting, analyze your call transcripts. Think back on the last conversation you had. Did you check all of these boxes? Did you have a smooth process that instills confidence in your prospects that you know what the hell you're doing? Okay. Now, the close doesn't create the yes. Everything that leads up to asking them to get booked, that's what creates the yes. So a lot of you put too much emphasis on your pitch and not nearly enough emphasis on all the stuff that builds up to it that prevents objections from happening in the first place. Okay. So here's a couple places where most people go wrong. Okay. You sound like a salesperson. Ben alluded to this. Like, you have to have high energy when you're going into this. Just like creating content online, your viewers are going to consume your content with the same energy that you put into creating it. And so if you are dull on the phone and you're just going off of the script and reading it word for word, people aren't going to want to work with you because they can't connect with you emotionally. And so we need to be high energy. We need to be happy. We want to sound like someone that they want to be around. Number 2 is you just talk way too much. This is the number 1 problem that most of you are probably having. You are talking way too much. In sales, you should talk 10% of the time. Your prospects should be talking 90% of the time, because you're asking clarifying questions and going deeper on their answers to get them to tell you all the reasons why you're the right fit for them. Number 3, cover this one, Ben. You're great at this one.
Yeah, just like staying on the surface with things. And that's the thing too, is like, I see some people that will get like phone scripts from other sales courses or other like PT business coaching and stay so surface level. And you really want to try and get 3 layers deep with people. Like, awesome. What would a successful outcome look like for you? Oh, I want to get back to running. Great. We can help you with running. And then most PTs like, awesome. Clinical. I can help with running. Moves on to the next question. Great. Hey, yeah, we worked with tons of runners. I'm a runner myself. And I know for myself that running is much more than just running. It's my way to get stress relief. It's also my way to, I know for a lot of people, it's their way of being able to stay in shape. It's also, we work with a lot of runners that say it's their way to socialize. They're part of a bunch of running clubs and they're busy throughout the week and they like going on these, being part of running clubs on the weekends, and it's their way to socialize. And when they can't do that, they start getting, it starts impacting them quite a bit. For you, what's most important about getting back to running? They're like, yeah, actually the socializing aspect is a big part of it. It's my way. I'm got a stressful job and I'm like, oh, tell me more about that. Tell me more about this stressful job. Yeah, it's just like super stressful. My performance is starting to decline at work and I'm trying to work on getting a promotion, and me not being able to run is starting to impact my ability to perform at work. And it's really impacting me professionally as well, not just personally. Great. Now you can see how much you're helping somebody more than just getting back to running. And that's what most clinics are doing. Like maybe if you call an insurance company or a clinic, they're only just asking about cost or they're just asking about the name, date of birth, and insurance information. But if like they call another cash-based practice down the street, this is how you really start make yourself stand out. You're able to help people at a much deeper level. And now you're not just helping them running, you're helping them with socializing, you're helping them decrease stress, you're helping them perform better at work. That's a much higher value add than just getting back people to run, getting people back to running.
People like to buy from people that truly understand them. And if you stop at that, they say, hey, my shoulder has been killing me lately. You're like, yeah, I can definitely help with that. You're selling a commodity at that point, in which case you're always going to be expensive to the alternative. And so what everyone else talks about is the surface level stuff. What makes you different and worth the premium price where you can charge $200, $250 a session. Sorry if you can hear that ambulance flying by. If you start to get to those deeper reasons, that is why people buy. People buy for emotional reasons and then justify with logic. The logic is what's on the surface. We have to dig deeper, ask why that's important to them. And when they say why that's important, again, asking, but why? And get to those deeper, real reasons that actually motivate people to spend premium prices. We alluded to this a little bit, but micro selling. A lot of you say you can help way too early, because if you say you can help early in the conversation, the second you say that, you create sales pressure. So we cannot say that we are confident we can help until we hit all of our sales outcomes. We get all the information we need for each of the 7 core beliefs before we present. Because now when we say, hey, I'm confident I can help, your prospect actually believes you because you took the time to actually hear their entire story and they know you have all the important details. So they trust you when you say you can help. So don't do any micro selling. Hold your tongue, bite it, and just keep asking clarifying questions until you have all the information so that you can say, hey, based off of every single thing that you've told me so far, and thanks for being open and honest with me, I'm 100% confident that we can get you a great result. And I know everyone tells you that, so let me explain why. We just helped X, Y, and Z person achieve this exact same thing. So when I say I'm confident I can help, just know that I mean it. Is it okay if I tell you how that process works? They give you permission, make your pitch, get them booked. Okay, so these are the 4 biggest mistakes that a lot of you are probably doing wrong on your calls. Okay, now none of these matter. Like you can be making all these mistakes and wouldn't even matter if you're not doing this first one. Okay, rejection avoidance. Okay, a lot of you are so afraid of rejection that you're not asking the difficult questions that are necessary to be successful within sales. Okay, so just real quick, for those of you who are on the call here today, would you take this deal? Imagine if Ben offered you a job following up with his leads, where for every single person who didn't answer the phone or said they'll think about it and ghosted you, you got paid $443. And every single time you talk to somebody, but they decide they're not going to book, they're going to go with an in-network option, you got paid $547. Or anytime someone canceled or no-showed, you got paid $2,322. The only rule is that the prospect actually has to appear qualified. You have to actually try to close this person. Okay, you get paid whether they say yes or no, that's it. And this compensation plan continues forever. How many leads would you follow up with every single day? How much more energy would you put into making those phone calls? How many no's would you try to get every single day? Okay, if 8 people ghosted you today, you'd make over $3,000. In 30 days, you'd make over $100,000. If that happened over 12 months, you'd make $1.2 million. Now, the only other rule is you don't get paid until you follow up with 1,000 leads. Now, for those of you who are on this call, just put me in the chat if you would take this deal. Of course you would. Oh, of course you would. Now, this might sound absolutely insane, but these are Ben's actual numbers inside of ProKinetics. That is how much money he makes for every single person that ghosts him, that says no, or says no, whether it's a verbal no, or they just don't text back, they don't email back, they don't call back, and they just disappear. For every single no, he had in the last year, 2,700 people told him no. And so a lot of you think that your problem is you're not getting enough yeses. But the real problem is you're not getting nearly enough no's. You don't have enough volume to hit the goals that you want to have. You should have a massive number of people who are saying no. So for those of you who are here, and in the replay, we'll drop the document, but we created this calculator for you so that you can go in here and you can punch in your current numbers. And if you don't know what your numbers are, that's totally fine. You can just keep what we have in here as like your guide so that we know what your golden ratios are. How many leads actually turn to calls, how many calls turn into evaluations, how many evaluations get completed, and how many of those turn into package conversions, so that we know what our golden ratios are: our lead to call booking rate, our call to evaluation booked rate, our evaluation show up rate, our evaluation to package close rate. These are the most important metrics in our business so that we can make informed decisions, so that we know where the problem is that we need to work on next. When you understand the golden ratios, you're able to start treating your business with the same level of confidence and certainty that you have when you're treating your patients. Now, once you have these numbers punched in, you can punch in like what your income goal is, and then this calculator will tell you exactly how many no's, how many leads, how much you need to spend in your marketing to achieve your goals. And once you see these numbers, you can start to change your relationship with hearing no. Because whether they say yes or no, you are making money. And when you know how many no's you need to have, it starts to remove a lot of the emotional toll and stress associated with hearing rejection. Okay. You definitely need more no's coming into your business. So change your relationship with rejection and you'll close way more people. Okay. So I'm going to go through this real quick so we can get into the script. Pre-call, stay checked. Until you're proficient at doing calls, you need to do this before every single call. Read this thing out loud. My only job in this call is to help this person make the best decision for them. I will approach this call with clear intent, free from outcome. I will share my truth and let the cards fall where they may. I understand that sales is non-linear. I will adjust my strategy as needed. Don't just read off the script. Be a human being. Don't be a robot. By the end of this call, they must believe that they can succeed and they need my help to do. If a transaction occurs, it helps me for a minute and helps them for a lifetime. It's really important to go into these calls unattached from the outcome, because if you need the sale, they're going to feel that and they're not going to move forward. But if you truly don't care, if you're truly detached from it, that creates magnetism and people want to work with that. Okay. So read this before every single call, check in with yourself, make sure you're approaching these calls with the right energy to do this. And then as far as tactical readiness goes, make sure you're in a quiet room, you're ready to take notes, you call them on time, and you have your EHR or CRM open, ready to take notes, to greet them by name. Anything to add to that, Ben?
No, it's just going back to the energy. Like that's everything at the beginning of that call. It sets the tone for the rest of the call and the quality of answers that you're going to get.
Beautiful. Okay. So we ready to go into the discovery call? All right. So this is the discovery call process, but this is our script, but scripts do not matter. What you say doesn't matter nearly as much as how you say it. We were just talking with one of the other coaches on our team, also doing 7 figures, who was joking that his script is way better than Ben's, but their booking rate is almost identical. meaning that you can have completely different scripts and still have it work just as well. And all that matters is that we're covering the 5 steps of the discovery call process and we're overcoming and resetting those 7 core beliefs. That's the only things that matter, not the script. And when you get really good at the 7 beliefs, you don't need a script anymore. But it's helpful to get started.
Yeah. So the big thing is connecting with them on the, and depends too if it's an inbound or outbound call as well. So if it's an inbound call, the inbound calls are the toughest ones because usually people ask, hello, this is Dr. with ProKinetics. How can I help? Yeah, just call in if you take insurance. Right now you're already on the defensive. So inbound calls are really tough. What I want to do is I want to control that conversation from the get-go. Oh, this is Dr. Bell, ProKinetics Physical Therapy Performance Master I'm speaking with. And so they're like, oh yeah, so what I'm going to do here is I'm going to change my tonality. I'm going to pretend like I actually know this person. Okay. So I answered the call with like medium energy. And they're like, yeah, this is Joan. Hey, Joan, this is great to meet you. How's your day been? So I'm increasing my tone, pretending like I'm excited to speak with them because I am, right? And yeah, my day's great. Awesome. I'm assuming that you're calling because you're dealing with injury. And it's like a kind of joke right off the call, calling a physical therapy clinic. I'm assuming you're calling because you're dealing with injury. Before I get you scheduled anything like that, I want to make sure that I can absolutely help you. Can you tell me a little bit more about what's going on, how this started, what you tried, what's worked and what hasn't, and just your story overall, Ms. Smith? Yeah, I can tell you that. Great. Now I go right in. So you can see how right off the bat, I started controlling the conversation because I asked who I'm speaking with. And I asked another question, how the day been, or what, like one of my favorite questions to ask is actually not always how your day's been, but if it's a Friday, hey, what fun stuff you get into this weekend? If it's a Monday Monday, hey, how was your weekend? What was the best part of your weekend? So I'm like actually like asking questions that are not just traditional questions that people ask.
Talk to them like you already know who they are and they're expecting your call, like you were ready for them.
Yeah. And if somebody's right out of the gate, yeah, I can tell you my story, but really want to know, do you take insurance? And there's a couple different options here in the script on what you can do here on it. So I'm like, I normalize all of our patients do have insurance and typically see reimbursement depending on the insurance and also depending on the type of injury that they're dealing with. Before getting you scheduled though, I want to make sure that we can absolutely help. What's been going on that's caused you to reach out looking for help or through physical therapy, right? So like I'm normalizing, yeah, all of our patients do have insurance and typically see reimbursement. And I'm just like saying it depends because it's really complicated. That's the thing too, is like the insurance is very complicated and they reimburse on different things depending on what's going on. Can you tell me more on what's going on? So thing two is when you get to the end of the call, some people are like, I don't want to like lie and I don't want to like not address that if that's a question they have. If I know that we don't take insurance. So what I'm doing is like people at the end of the day, they don't want to know if you take insurance. They want to know if there's going to be reimbursement. At the end of the day, people can have $5,000 deductibles, but they think it's going to be covered if they go to a clinic that takes insurance because they don't understand insurance. And so this gives you also an opportunity to explain to them at the end of the call, if you get hit with an insurance objection, why don't you just tell me at the beginning of the call that you didn't take insurance? Hey, it's really complicated. I know you said like you want to get back to running. That's really not covered by insurance. And so you can explain to them and educate them versus if you just answer right out of the gate that you don't take insurance. Thanks for letting me know. And then they hang up. Like they just check out every time. So that's kind of how to handle the insurance question.
Key thing is don't let them take control of the call. Handle it with confidence. Expect the question. It is going to come. Acknowledge it and then redirect it.
Yep.
Okay. If they are adamant about it, then just say, happy to walk you through that. Quick question though. Have you tried PT before? And then again, quick redirect. And then if they really force you into it, well, then just have the conversation with them. They might not be a good fit to begin with, but explain why you don't take it because it doesn't allow you to get the outcomes doesn't allow you to treat patients in the way that you get the absolute best outcomes. And so just explain it. And if they're tough, you probably dodged a bullet anyway.
Yep. And I'm avoiding addressing that insurance question if at all costs until I've been able to ask questions or at least on the pitch. And that's so where if somebody's like really adamant about asking insurance, I still redirect again. We can definitely talk about, I'm just curious before I answer that. Have you been in physical therapy before? And then whether they say yes or no, now I'm going through my pitch. Great. Okay, great. Yeah, I can definitely talk about this, how physical therapy works with us. And I go through a pitch. And then at the end of the pitch, I explain cost of insurance. And at least it allows me to have a fighting chance with it. And so I go through my pitch no matter what on calls.
Right. Now, this is the engage stage. This is where we get them to cross the belief bridge by asking very structured, strategic questions. It's the most important piece of all of this. So what's changed for you recently that caused you to reach out? When did that problem start? How long has that been going on for? What have you already tried so far to fix that? Is it getting better, worse, or not changing?
Yeah, these are all kind of like the same questions that we went over earlier that are just You're just trying to engage with them, learn more about their story and all that. And just really trying to get and understand, like, why does this all matter in the first place?
And we, even if we know, get them talking about it, because the more we talk about a problem, the bigger it gets. Same with our like anxiety. If we focus on all the things that are going on in our life, that anxiety is going to grow. We want to do the same thing with the problem that our prospect is having. We want to build the gap between where they are and where they want to be by asking these questions. Then you want to phase transition into why all this matters.
Yeah. So big thing here is, let me see, and zoom in here. Obviously, it's physical therapy. We have goals for our patients, but what is most important to you? Best thing too is if you just ask, like, what are your goals? A lot of times they're going to tell you what they think you want to hear. You're a physical therapist. You care about range of motion and strength. They're going to be like, yeah, I want to increase my range of motion. My hips tight, my hip flexors tight, my glutes are weak, and I want to strengthen them. So you want to pre-frame, hey, obviously as physical therapists, we have goals for our patients, but honestly, that doesn't matter. What's most important is, what do you have for goals? And so that helps a lot with just getting better answers as well. And then again, like I know you said you want to get back to running. We commonly hear from runners like yourself that it isn't just about getting back to running. It's also because stress relief, being able to lose weight, keep weight off. I've got a wedding coming up. I want to look good for my wedding. You want to lose weight. There's always, so I'm like, the patients have different motivations for you. What is so motivating? We talked about that earlier too.
And then once you understand that, asking the consequence question. If you don't fix this, what's going to happen in the next 6 to 12 months down the road? Get them to explain the cost of not moving forward with working with you. And then when they're saying anything that's like a surface level question of, I want to run, why do you want to fix this hip pain? Oh, I have a marathon coming up and I really want to be able to compete in it. That's a surface level answer. Ask, why is running in that marathon so important to you? Oh, well, my friends are doing it. Again, like, why is it so important to you? We just had an example of this happen with one of our clients where the person said, by continuing to ask piercing and clarifying questions, the person ended up saying, yeah, I've signed up for the same marathon 3 years in a row and I've had to duck out last minute every time because of this hip issue. And then didn't even stop there. You've applied 3 times. Like, why is this so important to you that you're still trying to do it? I used to be obese and I lost all this weight and completely changed my life for running. And now it's a big piece of who I am. And I'm terrified of losing that. That's the reason that they bought. Now, this person ended up not moving forward with this client's admin. Our client called them back, had this conversation. Then that person ended up paying in full because of the clarifying and piercing questions during this stage. Like, why is this so important to you? Then the transition stage, really simple. You summarize every single thing that they said to you, like where they are, where they're trying to go, what they've tried, why they feel like that didn't work, why they feel like you're a good fit. And then, okay, based off everything they're sharing with me, I feel really confident that we can get you this result. I know everyone says that. Here's why I'm so confident. Is it okay if I move forward and explain to you our process and how we're able to get those results? Yes, please do. Then we're able to transition. So we tell them we're confident. Then we explain why with a relevant patient story. Okay. When we just tell people we're confident that we can help them because we have all of this expertise, blah, 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 you're convincing. If we want our prospect to decide for themselves that they can help you, you share a story, because all of us perceive ourselves as the main character in our own lives. So when we hear a story, we project ourselves into it. And if that person was able to get results, we believe that we can get results because we don't believe that someone else can do something that we can't. So the patient story is extremely important.
The key piece, that telling the story, it does not count if you just talk about, yeah, we work with runners all the time. Doing a general, we work with X population all the time and help X population get back to X, Y, and Z. It's not specific enough. They can't see themselves in that story. Yeah, it doesn't land the same. So you need to tell a specific patient story.
Passion and empathy.
Yes. Yeah. So that's a big common mistake I see people make.
Okay. Now the presentation stage. Now we have a training on how to structure your packages and your pricing that we did last week. If you're in the Limitless DPT Circle community, go check out the pricing training that is available under the workshop section to really understand how to communicate your packages, how to command premium pricing, because this whole step process is going to go way easier. Ben, I know we're running short on time, but you've done this pitch a million times. You want to run through it?
Yeah. So the main thing here is, I just want to make sure this is the exact one I've got. Okay, cool. So yeah, physical therapy with us is quite a bit different. Usually with physical therapy with us is usually the first half of the session is a lot of hands-on treatment. using manual therapy, massage therapy techniques to help you start decreasing pain right away. In the second half, we'll be going through the exercise with your physical therapist. That'll be added to your home exercise program to ensure that you're doing them correctly. And because you're with the doctor of physical therapy the entire hour and given a comprehensive home exercise program, as well as a strength training program, there's no reason that you need to be coming in 2 or 3 times a week as you would with a typical physical therapy clinic that utilizes aids or assistants. So you can see I'm taking a subtle jab and also letting them know you're not going to spend 2 or 3 times a week taking time off from work, traveling to and from. I'm subtly planning that. We also want you to be independent. We don't want you relying on physical therapy, massage, chiropractic care, your physician, or anything like that. We want to provide you with as much education and guidance during your session as possible to allow you to be as independent as possible. With that being said, patients typically just come in once a week. And over that week's time, you should have made progress. So I'm subtly hinting, you should be making progress week over week. And the next time you come in, we're leveling up and giving you new exercise to work on to get you back to X, Y, and Z. Again, relating back to goals. We're never going to be wasting your time coming in and doing exercise that we've done in the past, unless you have questions or ones you want to like review, unless, we're not going to waste your time doing the same thing that you've been doing at home. So we utilize the 3-step process. First phase is help you decrease the pain and symptoms that you're experiencing. This is where most PT clinics stop. They just want to get you out of pain. You're good to go. But that's really just 33% of what we do. Second phase is really, once your pain symptoms are under control, is really find the root cause of the issue and correct it, because rarely where the pain is really not actually the root issue. And that's why so many people fail physical therapy. So again, I'm throwing a little bit of shade at traditional PT. Phase 3 is help you make sure that your body's stronger, more resilient, so that this is much less likely to chance and occur in the future. And something that we add in here too is like, also there's a lot of people that we work with that enroll in our Performance Plus program. So they're like, I'm back to running. I want to keep running, and I don't want to just keep running, but I want to be able to run faster and run longer. And so we work with people on a monthly basis to optimize not just their longevity of life, but also optimize their human experience and be able to live more fulfilled lives because they're able to do that because they love deep into old age. So people work with us for years, again, not because they're relying on us, but they realize that we can help them level up in all aspects of their life when it comes to health. So again, I joke because it is a long pitch. And again, I like to use humor and like stupid jokes. Hey, I know that was a lot of information, but does that sound like what you're looking for, Ms. Smith, to get you back to X, Y, and Z? Okay. And then from there, they're like, yes or no, 99.
And they're going to say yes. Make them explain why, because they're selling themselves to you now. Here's all the reasons why this is going to work for me. So it's hard to back out when you ask them to commit. And when you ask them to commit, transitioning out of this, assume that they want to do this. Tell them, great. We have I'm not sure what our schedule looks like, and I apologize about the limited availability. Pre-framing that you're busy. We usually fill up 2 to 3 weeks in advance. We had a couple reschedules come through though, and I can squeeze you in give them 3 different times, 3 simple times. Which one of those would you like? Which one of those works best for you? Okay, awesome, great. I've got you down. There's just one other thing. Like I said earlier, we typically fill up 2 to 3 weeks in advance. Explain your cancellation policy to them so that you're able to charge them if they cancel or no-show you in advance. Make sure that expectation's there. Your show-up rates will go up significantly. Okay. Now, if they ask about insurance, explain why you're not in network with them, because you're not able to get the outcomes you're able to get because they don't reimburse for the types of treatment that you provide. They create those outcomes. Tell them about the reimbursements that they typically get. And then most importantly, pre-frame what your rates actually are. Tell them like what your per visit rate is so that when they show up, they're not getting hit with a sticker shock. And if they have a price objection, you're able to handle it with them on the phone. But we've seen people's conversions just tank because they stopped pre-framing their prices on the discovery call. You have to do it at the very end, but don't do it until we've gotten them scheduled. Then unveil everything about how the whole process works, what it's going to cost to have that conversation there, rather than take up an evaluation slot and waste everyone's time because they're not going to get the outcome that they want that way.
I want to highlight too, in the script above, you never see me use the word but. So many people, when they are talking about insurance, are like apologetic about it. Like, oh, we're technically out of the network with insurance, but we give you a super bill, but we do this, but we do that. Don't use the word but. Do not do it. You're already admitting like guilt, and there's nothing to be guilty about. And so you need to be careful about the exact wording that you're using when you're discussing insurance with people.
Yep. Everything before the word but is bullshit. I don't know what show that was from, but yeah. But frames it as a negative thing. Don't use it. No, we don't take insurance, because insurance doesn't allow us to work with patients in the way that we know gets the absolute best results.
And then it's costing people more in the long run.
Exactly. And costing people more in the long run. Okay. So this script will break everything down for you, explain the onboarding process. You collect their information, get them added into your EHR, make sure that they know that they're going to get a final confirmation, set expectations on what to wear, cover some frequently asked questions, make sure they know what the next steps are. So the great experience you just created during that discovery call doesn't end when you hang up the phone. They need to know what the next steps are. We need to validate them for moving forward. We need to celebrate that they're moving forward and instill the confidence that they're making the right decision. And so you got to map out the whole thing. Okay. So that is the discovery call framework. We are going to release the training for the discovery call process and everything that we covered here today inside of Circle. And that's going to include this document, the discovery call script, as well as the golden ratio calculator to help you know what are the sales numbers that I need to be hitting in order to reach my dream practice. Thank you all so much for being here and watching this with us. I'll catch you in the replay. And if you could, I would greatly appreciate for those of you that are here, go and comment on the event inside of the Circle community and just say, what was your biggest takeaway from this training? What was the biggest challenge that you're facing with this? What are you afraid to implement from this script? We'd love to learn where you're stuck, what you took away to help us improve our trainings and create future better and more trainings in the future.